Yvonne, thank you for joining us in the program.
My pleasure.
Yvonne, so were you really spying for the Americans in Afghanistan?
No, in fact I said to my captors, if I am America's secret weapon, then God help the Americans.
So what actually were their accusations against you?
I had entered their country illegally, without a passport, without a visa, and while everyone else in Afghanistan was trying to get out and into safety in Pakistan, they couldn't understand why somebody like me would sneak into their country. And they were very suspicious. It was a time of war, and they didn't believe that I was a journalist, which I can fully understand. But over a period of days we were able to prove that I was indeed a bona fide journalist.
And what were the grounds they left you? They released you. What were the grounds they released you on?
They released me after 10, 11 days on humanitarian grounds. Mullah Muhammad Omar, the spiritual leader of the Taliban, signed a document which was then faxed to Kabul, where I was later held in the final few days. And it said that Mullah Omar was releasing me on humanitarian grounds.
Even when you came back to England, you know, the first controversy, you first created the headlines, as I said in the outset, when you were actually seized by the Taliban, but you created second, set of headlines when you came back, and you appreciated them.
Well, I've always believed in speaking the truth, which isn't a very popular thing to do at times, but they had treated me with respect and courtesy for the full time during my captivity. That isn't to say I wasn't terrified. I was terrified every day, but their treatment of me was quite exceptional, and it deserved to be reported, you know, that I had been treated very well by my captors. But
you have also been very critical of their treatment toward the women in general.
Well, you know, that part of the region, women do have a very difficult time, and I think looking back now it's more down to culture than down to Islam.
Looking down now, you said it was not realized then?
No, my knowledge of Islam was very limited.
But yet your first husband was a Muslim.
Dawood Zarur, the father of my daughter, yes, he was a Sunni Muslim, and he sometimes tried to talk about Islam, and I'd say, I'm not interested, and when I began looking into Islam some years later, I was amazed by what I was reading, and I picked up the phone and spoke to Dawood and said, why didn't you tell me about this great faith? And although we have split up, we're still very good friends. And he laughed and he said, Yvonne, you wouldn't listen to me, you wouldn't take any notice. So there it was, right under my very nose.
Yeah, it's still surprising because, you know, in one of your interviews with Islam Online with Muhammad Ayub Khan some time ago, he asked you the question, did you have any knowledge about Islam before your encounter with Taliban? And you said nothing more factual than would fill the back of a postage stamp. And yet you were married to a Muslim who was head of a certain PLO operations and was the father of your child. Does it make sense?
I just switched off at any mention of religion. At that point, I had pretty much made up my mind about Islam. I felt as though I knew enough about Islam that I didn't want to know any more. And I regarded Islam as a faith which subjugated and oppressed women. Now I look back and I try and find out, when did the poison start? When did it begin? And I was brought up in the north of England in a little village where you were either a Protestant or a Catholic. There was nothing as exotic as Islam. And I tried to look back and see when this demonization process began, and it began at the time of the Iranian Revolution, when the Iranians seized a lot of American hostages and the yellow ribbons were all